call the November 18th, 2020 meeting to order for the Cottage Grove City Council meeting. The first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I'm not going to ask people to necessarily rise, I suppose, but we can do the pledge even though we're doing this virtually. So I'll start us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so before we do the roll call, which will be Joe, I did want to read a quick statement for the public. So, and part of it is what we're doing here now as we're all remote. So based on the statewide COVID statistics and our city's emergency declaration, which remains in effect, we are holding our public council meetings virtually for the foreseeable future, while providing for public input via Zoom. Please visit our website at cottagegrovemn.gov and then click on the government link, which is pick public meetings, and then you can click on the link that takes you to the November 18th, 2020 meeting. You'll find all kinds of options, including if you would like to speak during the open forum or at any of the regular agenda items. We want to be very transparent, accessible, and inclusive, and we hope that these measures will accommodate everyone who wishes to participate in our open and public meetings. So with that, I will now move to Joe Fischbach, who will do our roll.
Councilmember Mills?
Here.
Councilmember Dennis?
Here.
Councilmember Thiede?
Here.
Councilmember Olson?
Here.
Mayor Bailey?
Here. All right, moving on, next is open forum. This is the opportunity for anybody that would like to speak on tonight or in open forum on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. I am looking on our Q&A, and I see we do have one resident, but that resident is for the 80th Street assessment. So we will get to that individual when we actually talk about the assessment. So thank you for that. Steve, if you would just hold with us a little bit, that would be great. And then we'll let you speak a little bit later. So I don't see anybody else out there in the chat box. Anybody at all? All right, I'm going to go ahead then and close the open forum portion of the meeting, and we'll move now to number 5, which is adoption of the agenda.
Move the agenda.
All right, I'll take Councilmember Mills and a second by Councilmember Olson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, we have to
Aye.
do. I'm sorry, we have to roll. My apologies. I'm so used to doing this the old way. So Joe, please do the roll.
Councilmember Mills?
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis?
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede?
Aye.
Councilmember Olson?
Aye.
Mayor Bailey?
Aye. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is presentations. We actually have 2 different presentations this evening. The first presentation is holiday events here in Cottage Grove. And Molly from our Parks and Rec department is going to take us through this one. So Molly, welcome to the council.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, council, city staff on the call tonight, and residents who are tuning in. Although the pandemic is in full swing, we still have a ton of holiday stuff kind of going on around Cottage Grove that we wanted to let you know. Our first event is the ever popular 10th anniversary of the Hail to the Bird race down at Hamlet Park on Hale Avenue. This is their 10th anniversary, raising money in support of the Friends in Need food shelf. The event is still going to be held this year, although it will be virtual. So we encourage people to register. You can find the link on the city's website, or if you go to ActiveNet and enter Hail to the Bird, the race will pop up on there as well. They're still doing their Turkey Day t-shirts, and those will be available to pick up at Hamlet Park on Wednesday night, the night before Thanksgiving, from 6 to 10 p.m. inside the park building. Masks will be required, and only one person at a time will be let in to pick up your shirts. We're kind of hoping it's nice outside, so maybe we can move the tables outside as well. But I really encourage everybody, if you're not in town or at your cabin, something, this is still a great year to sign up for the Hail to the Bird, get your shirt, and really still contribute to the Friends in Need Food Shelf as they need our support now more than ever. Next. The CP Holiday Train, we're sad to say it will not be making its annual stop this year in Cottage Grove. However, they will be hosting a virtual concert on Saturday, December 12th at 7 p.m. We've shared the Facebook link on our Cottage Grove Holiday Train Facebook page, and I believe we've shared it from the city's Facebook page as well. But it will be live streamed from their page, and I believe it said it would be about an hour and a half long, a concert, holiday concert, another great event. The food shelf, like I said, needs our help now more than ever. We have reduced our goal this year to $70,000, and gratefully, we're well on our way to be making that goal. We encourage people who want to donate to either send a check directly to the food shelf, or you can make a donation online through their PayPal app. All cash and paper donations, paper product donations to the Friends in Need Food Shelf stay right here locally in our community. Next. Other ways to donate to the holiday train. Committee members, we've been working on collecting items from our community businesses and partners to host a virtual silent auction, which will start on Cyber Monday and go through December 11th. We have almost 100 items donated by our amazing community. You can find the bidding website directly on the Friends in Need Food Shelf's website. The link to its 32 auctions is the name of the company that we're using. There's some great items on there. The second event that we are going to do is Fill a Fire Truck drive-through event. Now, we've all done a ton of planning. We did not see the paper towel, toilet paper shortage that has come up the last few days, throwing another wrench into our plans. So we realized that we're not going to be able to necessarily fill a fire truck with paper products, but we're hoping that if you have some to spare, we accept it. That is one thing that the food shelf cannot buy necessarily in bulk at a discounted rate, so it's a great item that we can still donate to them. We will be also collecting cash donations on this day, December 12th, from 10 to noon at Hamlet Park. So it'll be a drive-through event. You can drop off your donations. You can also pick up your silent auction winning bid items that day. So it's a great chance to kind of get it all done in one-stop shop from your car. And I have word that Santa and Mrs. Claus will also be waving from the sidelines. So kind of another opportunity to get out, maybe play at the playground, otherwise just drive through and help participate in the CP Holiday Train event this year. Next. As some of you saw tonight, we did have our Facebook Live tree lighting event. I know it's early, I know it's before Thanksgiving, but we're ready to go here in Cottage Grove, and we just needed some more lights to kind of brighten things up around our town. So Mayor Bailey and Santa officially lit the Christmas trees outside City Hall tonight. It was a great Facebook Live event. New this year, we have a very large chair positioned outside next to our trees. It creates a great group photo opportunity. There's also like a selfie post outside for you to kind of set your phone on, take a great family picture. There's a sign on there to tag hashtag CG Holiday Lights. There's also a new red mailbox you'll see kind of near the Veterans Memorial that for letters directly to Santa. So it's a weatherproof mailbox and just a new great addition to our decorations outside here at City Hall. Next. So also kind of in culmination with everything this year, backed by popular demand, is our Holiday Lights home tour. So if you are planning a big display, it doesn't have to be huge, but a nice display in your yard, head to our website and register your home as a tour stop. We already have 10 houses signed up this year, so it's a great start. A map will be created on our city's website next week, and then we will post it as of Friday morning. So the goal is we will plan a route that makes sense, and it starts here at City Hall. So plan a super fun night out with your family, hop in the car in your jammies and some hot cocoa. Start here at City Hall with our Christmas tree, take a family picture, create new memories, and then follow our map along the Cottage Grove route to all of the houses that are lit up and ready for you to see. Again, sign up soon to your house. We will be adding houses as they let us know, but it's a Google Doc right on the city's website to get your house added so people can start seeing it right after Thanksgiving. Next. Other holiday things going on this winter. River Oaks is offering a Black Friday sale and gift cards. The deal this year is purchase $120 worth of gift cards for just $100. The sale runs Wednesday, November 25th through Sunday, November 29th. Also watch the River Oaks Facebook page for other fun things. I did happen to see most merchandise is now 50% off, so it's a great opportunity to stop in and get some Christmas shopping done. Next. We just want to remind everybody, I know it's a hard night, lots of things shutting down, lots of traditions we have with our family and in our community, but there's still lots of great things that Cottage Grove offers to get out and play this fall still while we have some nice days and also this winter. So all of the amenities listed are going to stay open all winter long. They provide great social spacing for your family to move about the city. Our parks, our trails, we plow many of our trails all winter long. They're a high priority in our community. Our skating rinks are going to be flooded. I know we've had a ton of phone calls. It was 50 degrees though, so not today, but very soon. We promise as soon as we can this year, if we can start early, we will start early, getting those rinks flooded to give your family an opportunity to get outside. Sledding hills, I know my kids were out a few weeks ago, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing at River Oaks. So there's lots of still great things open in our community when it kind of feels like things are shutting down around us. We really encourage you to get outside, stay healthy, enjoy that daylight as much as you can. Next. And I think that's the end of mine.
There it is. Yep. We'll get into the next one here
Yeah.
in 1 second. So first of all, I guess what I'll open it up for, is there anyone in the council that has anything that they would like to comment on or question for Molly at this point? Well, I guess I would just
Yes, Mayor Bailey, sorry. I was
There you
trying to
go.
unmute.
No, you're good. Councilmember Mills.
I just want to say thank you to Molly and all the staff that worked so hard at putting together really creative ideas to help people have things to do during this time, and just fantastic presentation, and I look forward to trying out maybe all of it. So I thank you very much.
Well, we thank you. We have a great community that we work with. Our residents are, everybody's super positive and appreciative. So it definitely makes it worthwhile at the end of the day to do things and offer great things to our community.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback since and again, if you haven't had the chance yet, maybe some public have not, to view the Facebook Live event. Obviously, it was taped, so you'll be able to see it. And it sounds like we've already had a lot of people looking at it or viewing it. The chair out front, the Santa box for Santa letters. This is all done on behalf of our staff and Santa, of course, to support our community and again to help get everything out. I love the idea of having them kind of start at City Hall. So they kind of start with the Christmas trees. And by the way, there's a lot of other lights up at City Hall now. I heard a little elf told me that only by chance we happened to hire a couple new people in the last couple months or whatever, and two of them used to work at I guess Mall of America, and their job there was putting up Christmas lights. So
Bonus.
Yeah, so we do actually have more lights up here at City Hall on some of the trees. When I came around the corner tonight, I was like, oh my goodness, look at this. But if you do have a house that either your house or somebody's please add them to this list. Again, we are kind of in a difficult time. We need positive things to happen. I know that. I see it. I guarantee you the rest of the council and staff sees it in everywhere in our community. I know we've got an amazing community. But if you have a nice house that you would, whether it's yours, like I said, or somebody else's, please add it to the list, and we'll keep updating that list so that there'll be new homes added as the additional addresses come in and be updated on the Google map. So thank you, Molly. Thank you for sharing with us all the holiday spirit, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
All right. So next on our presentations this evening is Small Business Saturday Proclamation. And I believe, Christine, you're going to at least start us on this one.
Mayor, I think I'll turn it directly over to Councilmember Dennis to read the proclamation.
Perfect. There we go. All right, Councilmember Dennis, you have the proclamation for us to start us off.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor. And there's a couple words that I'd like to mention before we get to that. And I'm going to work off of a couple different screens here as we adapt to this format. So please bear with me as I do that. We're sitting right now at 7:15 p.m. and just a little over an hour ago, I'm sure that many of you had a chance to watch the governor's address. Executive Order 20-99 issued by Governor Walz has him turning a number of dials back as we continue to work our way through the COVID-19 epidemic. And unfortunately, this is impacting people. It's impacting people and our businesses. And one of the things that I'd like to do is just make a quick mention that our council for a number of years now has been really heavily promoting shop local, and that includes shopping small. And we've talked about things like the 350 project, where when you spend your money at locally owned businesses, and specifically Cottage Grove owned businesses, up to 68 cents out of every dollar stays right here working for everybody, rotating through the community, through payroll, taxes, business expenses, charitable giving, and a host of additional opportunities where that money comes to bear. And so we've talked about things like, making sure we support the companies we have and building our local economy one sale at a time. And so as we've seen results here over the past few years of more businesses coming, more restaurants, entertainment, various service companies and such, this support that we've received out of the community has had a direct impact on helping to make our entire marketplace more viable for investors to want to come here and do work with us. So we have a very timely moment as we're approaching Small Business Saturday. And in light of everything else that's going on right now, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk about some things that we can maybe do here to help bolster our local economy as we go through the given time period. So a couple things that I would mention, and I want to give credit to our director, Christine Costello, for bringing these items forward tonight. Ways to support some of our local businesses include buying gift cards or certificates, ordering delivery or pickup from nearby restaurants, being generous with the tips that we give, knowing that many of the staff that work there maybe aren't making what they did when the companies were at full capacity. Sharing your support of those businesses on social media. Now, I'll speak specifically, I know there were a number of us as council members here during last spring shutdown that would go out to a restaurant or another type of business and do a pickup and actually, take a quick picture and put out a positive message so that people saw that we had great things to offer. I know it's something that's very, very much appreciated by all of our local investors who are impacted by the shutdowns. Additionally, for those that might have some additional financial means, think about businesses that might close, that maybe you got a regular service with them and you could continue as a choice to pay for services, even though you're not necessarily redeeming them, but knowing that you're doing it in the spirit of helping those businesses to have a little bit of revenue stream coming in. And then also keep all of our businesses here in mind as we head out into the future, because we don't know. We know the shutdown is going to be approximately a month. That's what the governor is saying now. We don't know specifically what the conditions are going to be. As he indicated tonight, there's a lag time that takes place between when we try to dial things back and flatten that curve out. So the support that we can do here as a community can lead to major dividends and go an awful long way toward helping to keep our investors here in town. And so I speak to you as my council colleagues and also to the community, not just as a council member, not just as a vice president of our Economic Development Authority, but also as a small business owner who understands intrinsically the cause and effect nuts and bolts of what takes place and what is required in order to have a business structure be operational and successful here. So any support that our community can give, as we did earlier this spring, believe me, folks, it'll be greatly, greatly appreciated. So that's my message. And then what I'd like to do now is make a motion by forward bringing the proclamation Small Business Saturday, November 28th of 2020. And this is kind of a long one, so I'm going to do my best. Whereas the government of the city of Cottage Grove celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all firms with paid employees in the United States and are responsible for 64.9% of net new jobs created from the years 2000 to 2018. And whereas small businesses employ 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of US small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. 65% of US small business owners said it would be most helpful to their businesses to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of the US consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and support their communities. And whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independent-owned businesses supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agreed that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas the city of Cottage Grove supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which this year is November 28th, as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and the communities across the country to support small business merchants and small businesses on the Saturday and throughout the year. Now, therefore, the mayor and the city council of the city of Cottage Grove, county of Washington, state of Minnesota, hereby proclaim November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday in the city of Cottage Grove.
Second.
All right, so I'll take that and the motion from Councilmember Dennis, the second by Councilmember Olson. And any further discussion at the moment? All right, roll call vote. Joe.
Myron?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Thiede.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. You know, and it may not be a huge number. I've seen on Facebook a lot of the bars, you know, saying, "Well, we're going to have a party and drain the kegs," and you know, I think, you know, the first thing I thought of was, well, heck, I got some empty growlers downstairs. I'll just go help and they can load up the growlers. But that's not allowed. Is that correct? To be able to get a sealed container? I was just curious. So, but
I guess I don't know the answer to that. I don't think we have anybody on from public safety on here. I guess that's a question we can put to staff to have check for us.
Yeah, why don't we? 'Cause then we can help them out. I mean, again, I don't know how big of a dollar amount it really is, but you know, anyway, just a comment. So,
well, I guess the only other thing I'd mention, just for the general public before Joe does the official roll to pass this resolution, and that is, and you heard Councilmember Dennis, and I know all of us on the council, you know, we work so hard as a collective group in a city to support our local businesses, bring them into town, complement them, support them in various different ways. And they need us now more than ever. And whatever we can do with all those different suggestions that were provided to us by Christine, that's come from different people. I know Councilmember Dennis and I received an email earlier this evening too from a different group that represents, I believe it's the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce, I believe, and they were also giving some ideas of what you can do to try to help those local businesses during this time that's going to be real difficult, especially now during the holiday season. And put aside the holiday issues that we have, and I know it's going to be, with all due respect to everybody out there that does over the internet purchases and that, our brick and mortar stores that are local, moms and pops and family members really do need our support. So whatever it is locally, please do what you can to support them. And whether it's through gift cards, so when things do open up from our restaurants, or to some of our local businesses that like flower shops and massage places and things like that, let's do what we can to keep those guys here, because at the end of all this, there are going to be, unfortunately, some businesses that probably won't make it, unfortunately. And whether it's here in Cottage Grove or elsewhere, but I want to do everything in my power, and I know this council does too, to help our local businesses survive and not have that be the case. So with that, Joe, you can go ahead and do the roll now.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. Motion does carry. All right, next item on our agenda this evening is consent calendar. Is there anything that council would like to pull for discussion on consent? Councilmember Olson.
G, please.
All right. Letter G. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none from other council members, item G is the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant update. Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor and council colleagues. I will ask Christine Costello, our Economic Development Director, momentarily to chat further about this. But the reason that I pulled item G today is this item relates to a action that the council took earlier this year to help support local businesses who were challenged by some of the COVID-19 shutdown orders that the governor was forced to implement due to increasing case counts and essentially very low percentage of beds left available in our hospital system for those who were ill with COVID-19. We were able to help several local businesses through EDA grants, which, as I'm sure Christine will remind you, are granted through the Economic Development Authority, which is not taxpayer money. It is not taxpayer funded. It is funded by other businesses who are helping the entire business community in the city of Cottage Grove create and maintain success. And I would ask that we once again look at a program similar to the program that is listed here, and perhaps explore even some more creative ways in which we can help support local businesses financially through the course of the next 4 weeks plus, because Mayor, as you said, we don't really know how long it's going to last. The intent would be to help some of these businesses with fixed expenses that potentially could provide them with the relief that they need in order to stay operational through the course of the next 4 weeks, whether that's rent assistance, relieving some costs associated with business licenses that they may not be able to use, et cetera. So obviously that's probably better left to staff to do some exploration on what we've done in the past, and based on the learning of what we've done in the past, potentially massage the program in such a way that it is even stronger for our local business community. But I would ask that the council consider it. And then Christine, if you had anything you wanted to add on this, I would sure welcome your input.
Mayor, members of council, I would just say, be happy to explore the idea of opening up a new grant program and bringing back to you at an upcoming council work session a layout of a new grant program. I think it's important to consider, just after what the governor spoke at 6 o'clock, what we may see from the state, as well as we do have a new administration coming in at the federal level, if we'll see additional dollars from the federal government as well. In the meantime, I know we continue to waive the liquor license fee as well as alarm fees, but we can look at the program we had and how we can move that forward to assist those businesses now.
And Mayor, I think, time is of the essence here. So depending on how quickly the staff can sort of review what they've done previously with us and provide us with any additional options, it may even be prudent to consider a special council meeting to approve some sort of a new program so that we can start to get some of the relief out to the businesses as soon as possible. But again, I'll leave that up to the staff to determine, what the timeline looks like and all of the particulars. So, that's why I pulled this item, Mayor. And if there's any other council colleagues who'd like to comment, I'd certainly like to hear their input as well.
All right, I think I saw Councilmember Thiede.
Yeah, that's a good idea to take a look at that. But I would like to have a little report on how the companies that did get grants in the first round, how they used them and how it helped them. So we have a little bit more information on that before we actually go out for a second round. So.
Okay. Other council comments at the moment? I guess the only thing I can share is I believe late this afternoon, and I don't know if it went to all the council because I was asking some of these same questions from our administrator. I believe somebody provided me, one of our staff members provided me with the list of the local businesses that the city of Cottage Grove supported through our program, and also the local businesses that received funding through the CARES program through the Washington County. I also did ask staff. I mean, I think all of us, unfortunately, if you will, kind of knew that something like this was coming with all the rise in COVID, and did ask staff to also kind of reach out to other cities out there that did something similar to the way that we did it, and asking them kind of what are they thinking, because I think all of us, Cottage Grove is not alone when it comes to supporting our local businesses. There's many cities out there that, if they have the wherewithal and ability to do it, are going to try to do what they can. And we know who some of those cities were, because some of them actually did it even before we did, and we kind of used their ideas when we massaged our program that we did, and then as Councilmember Olson said, massaged it along the way to make sure that it was viable. And I believe at this point, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. We're all kind of, taking in what the governor just announced, in this case this evening, and then looking at what are some of the opportunities, possibilities that will be out there when it comes to what the state may be offering. I unfortunately wasn't able to listen to the governor's address this evening. And I do know that there's some pent-up demand at the federal level too, as I'm aware after talking to our national representative that covers our area, Representative Angie Craig, that there is a strong desire federally to do something too, because matter of fact, if they don't do something by Christmas, even the federal version of some of the help that they've done for unemployment is going to go away. And so I do think we'll take a look at this. I think all of us on this council have supported everything we can do to support our businesses, and we'll let staff take a look at it, talk to some of our partners out there, and we'll see what we can come up with. So thank you, Councilmember Olson. Any other comments on this item? All right, seeing no other comments, at this point, I'll look for a motion to approve consent.
Move consent.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Thiede.
Second.
Second, was that Councilmember Dennis?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Second by Councilmember Dennis. Any further discussion? All right, Joe, roll call again.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. So if you are on, or were you on this call or watching and you had anything on tonight's consent calendar, all of those items have now been approved. So moving on, we are now to number 8, which is approved disbursements. 8A is to pay the bills. I'll need a motion.
Move to
Motion
pay the bills.
All right, I'll take Councilmember Mills as the motion. I think second it was Councilmember Dennis. All right, any further discussion? What's funny is on my screen, Lorraine popped up and Steve went away. So sorry, Steve, you got to be number 2 there, council member. So roll call vote by Joe.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. All right. So now we'll move to number 9, and we do actually have 2 public hearings this evening. The first public hearing, which is A, is the West Point Douglas Rehabilitation, which is Jamaica Avenue to Belden Boulevard. And Ryan Burfine, you are going to walk us through this one. And again, this is a public hearing, or will be a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yep, tonight, the first project we'll be talking about is our West Point Douglas Road pavement replacement project that was recently completed. First, I want to quickly mention about our overall pavement management program and a little bit of history on that. This started back in 1994, and since that time, we've reconstructed over 87 miles of roadway in Cottage Grove and had over 7,000 assessments. This is really our program to ensure that we're keeping our roadways in a good condition and a safe, drivable condition. Next. Here's our project area from Belden Boulevard going down to Jamaica Avenue. Highlighted in yellow is this section of West Point Douglas Road that was included in the project. Next slide. Another part of the project was looking at sidewalk replacement as well. So actually, if you can go back one slide. Here we have an image showing the areas of sidewalk. We had some gaps that were highlighted in red. The green was existing sidewalk, and the area in yellow is a sidewalk that was to be installed by Cap Industries, which is a project that was approved. That was to be installed really at their full cost with their project. So with this project, we want to take the opportunity to fill in all these gaps, which also included installing that sidewalk in yellow. However, that's something when Cap Industries moves ahead next year, they will be paying that section of sidewalk back in full that we built with the project. It really made the most sense to get it done this year, even though that their building did not get constructed, so we wouldn't have that remaining gap. Next. Some of the utility work that we did, fairly typical for this type of project. For the sanitary sewer, we did structure adjustments and patching of the manholes. We did some pipelining where we had some pipe failures and repair. For the water main, we had some older water main out there, overall in pretty good condition, but we had to replace the valve bolts and boxes. And for the hydrants, we had to raise a few, and then we also reconditioned all the hydrants along the corridor. And for storm sewer, we did various structure repairs, spot replacements of the castings and rings. We had some failed structures that were creating issues at the roadway surface. And then we also did pipelining as well. Next. Looking at this roadway, it was an extremely old roadway in town, probably one of the oldest and worst condition roadways, originally built in 1974. On each end of the project, the 80th Street and Jamaica Avenue interchanges, those were redone in 1982. So there was some alignment work and, a slightly newer road section, but even at that point, 38 years old, and really ongoing maintenance over the last 45 years to keep this roadway drivable. But as council's aware, 2 seasons ago, it really just utterly fell apart on us. Public Works has done a lot of extra effort to keep it drivable, but definitely in need of replacement. Next. Here you can see some couple before and after photos that we have beforehand. Here just south of the 80th Street overpass, you can see just the extreme cracking, rutting, and some of the pothole patching that was completed. On the right, you can see that new pavement surface. Next. Here's another example of some of our really poor sections where we had major potholes. This was near 7500 West Point Douglas Road. You can see just an excessive amount of patching that had to be completed just to keep a paved surface for folks to drive on. And on the right, you can see that new pavement mat that was put down. Next. Looking at the accessible properties along this corridor, largely a commercial area. A whole corridor is zoned commercial. There is one, or guided commercial. There is one single family residential property highlighted in green that still exists along the corridor. Otherwise, largely a commercial properties. Next. Taking a look at the assessments, I'm not going to go through each individual assessment because they were in excess of 100 individual assessments. Because with the kind of unique characteristics on the corridor, all these commercial properties, school district, metro transit to single family residential, each property was really different. So what we did was we did a special benefit appraisal, third party, for each property. So we looked at the assessment following our special assessment policy in two ways. For the commercial properties, 100% of the project costs are assessed against the properties. Now, it's a one-sided road, so really only half of those project costs were assessed following our policy. So we did do policy calculations, and then we also had the special benefit appraisals on top of that. For the most part, the special benefit appraisals did govern and cap that assessment amount, but there were a handful of properties, more specifically those individually owned storage units, where the assessment policy calculation was lower. So you can see that assessment of $275 versus a benefit appraisal of $380. That was one of the type of units in that individually owned units. So like I said, we had a large number of assessments. That assessment roll was included in the packet. So folks can see all of those assessments, and I do have them with me if there's individual ones with questions or to speak about. Next. Looking at the funding breakdown, as just under $2.5 million for a total project cost. Below that, you can see the various work that was done. Each of the utilities, sanitary sewer, water, stormwater utility work that was completed. Roadway and sidewalk work was about $1.2 million after the assessments, because assessments don't pay for the whole project. And the total assessments were about $812,000. And when you look at that number, like I said, initially, because it's a one-sided roadway, our policy would effectively assess half of this project. But because the special benefit appraisals capped majority of the assessments, we're slightly under that. So about a third of the project is assessment instead of that 50% following the policy. Next. First thing I want to mention in terms of the assessment, if it is adopted, earlier in the year with the COVID-19 pandemic, council did make that decision with this project to delay the assessment by a full year with no interest. So if the assessments are adopted tonight, really owners have till November 15th, 2021 to pay this assessment if they wish. There is no interest charged during the next year. If they choose not to pay that or pay only part of it, whatever's remaining then would be levied against the properties working in December of 2021. And then property owners would first see this assessment on their taxes in the spring of 2022. So about a year and a half from now. If it does go to the taxes, the assessment's payable over 15 years, interest rates 1.5% above the bond rate, which would put the assessment or the interest rate at 3% for this project. And like I mentioned, a partial payment is allowed in this next year of a minimum of $500. And deferral is available for those disability, military, or 65 years of age or older. For that deferral, which would be after this 1 year period, proof is needed and interest still occurs after that assessment would have been levied. If folks have additional questions on the deferral, they can always contact our finance department who has more information on that. Next. So that's everything I have for the council tonight in terms of my presentation. Our recommendations are on the screen, and I would be happy to stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Council, is there any questions before we open it up for the public hearing on this particular item? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it from a distance here. I will open the public hearing. I do see we have some people in our attendees. I'm not sure if any of those are for this particular project at this point. I know we have a couple for the next one. Is there anybody that would like to speak to us on the West Point Douglas project? Is it Mark?
Yes, Mark.
Okay, Mark, can you say your full name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, Mark Mason, and I own a property at 8617 West Point Douglas where this project is.
Fantastic, thank you. What's your question?
Just one question. When the project had originally been sent out, the road and sidewalk work was at 1.84 million. And in the most recent numbers that we just saw, the road and sidewalk portion was at 1.2 million. The overall project cost went from 2.9 million down to 2.4, 2.5 million. There was a lot of extra stormwater work. My main question is a result of where did the assessments come from, and when the road and sidewalk, which is the inherent benefit for us, went down by 600,000, why did the assessments not change?
All right. I'm not sure if I'm going to turn that over to Ryan Burfine, or is that more of a question for Rob and Roland?
I can answer that question.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So the funding breakdown that I provided tonight, that's a overall breakdown, including the assessments. So that 1.2 million, the actual sidewalk and street work is higher than 1.2 million, but the assessments are paying part of that. Mr. Mason is correct that the overall project cost did go down, but because the special benefit appraisals capped the assessment amount, there wasn't really a difference seen in those assessments. The calculations that we did that looks at the total project cost, that calculation went down, but the special benefit appraisal was still lower. So let's say an assessment was initially proposed at, let's say $8,000 last spring based on our policy calc. It maybe went down to 7,000 based on our new policy calc, but the special benefit appraisal the whole time was 5,000. It's just using kind of rough numbers. So when you have that lower special benefit appraisal, that assessment does not change. It's still governed by the special benefit appraisal.
Thank you very much. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I just want to make sure that you did get your answer. All right, was there anybody else that wanted to speak on this item? I don't see anybody else raising their hand. Anybody at all? All right, I'm going to go ahead then and close the public hearing, and I'll look for a motion at this point from council.
I would move that we adopt the assessment roll for the West Point Douglas Road rehabilitation.
That does look like a weird word out there.
The rehab project, the Douglas Road rehab project.
All right, so we got a motion by Councilmember Thiede. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mills. Council, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will do a roll call vote again. Joe.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. The motion carries. All right, our next public hearing this evening, and I do know we have a few people I think that are here to speak on this item when we get to the open forum, and that is the 80th Street reconstruction project, which is between Jamaica Avenue and Keats Avenue or County Road 19. And Ryan, you're also going to walk us through this one.
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the 80th Street project, also have the similar map showing the same information about our pavement management history. So we can go to the next slide.
Just walk away and don't do anything, then the computer just goes to sleep. So
For 80th Street project, here you can see our project area from Jamaica Avenue to Keats Avenue, highlighted in blue. This was a full reconstruction project that we completed along this roadway. New subgrade, new gravel, new pavement, new curb and gutter work that we did. So this was a fairly extensive project. Also putting a new trail on the south side of the roadway and then replacing the trail on the north side along with replacing the street lights. Next slide. Here you can see the year constructed. So actually the center 2 lanes were originally built in 1968. And then in 1990, there was an overlay of those center lanes and construction of the outside lanes. So looking at the roadway, especially in the middle, there was some very old pavement on this roadway. And even 1990 being 30 years old with the level of traffic that it sees, I think everyone was well aware, very much in dire need of replacement. Next slide. Looking at some of the utility work, some of it's similar to what I just spoke about on West Point Douglas, adjusting and patching sanitary sewer structures, replacing valve boxes, raising hydrants and reconditioning. One thing on this project, we did have a fairly major expansion of the storm sewer system. That was necessary to meet our state aid requirements. State aid funding paid for the majority of this project. That allowed for a lot more additional capacity, so a lot less standing water on the roadway, even in very large rain events. Also looking at the street lighting, we had replacement of the street lights with new poles and luminaires. We have street lighting on the south side of the roadway now as well, and that lighting also meets state aid requirements. Next. Here's a handful of before and after photos. You can see throughout the roadway, we got photos of the potholes, the patching that had been done, lots of cracking along the roadway, and then those longitudinal joints, those joints going across the roadway that were really poor condition, and you really felt them in the wintertime when they would heave up. So definitely extremely poor condition roadway. And you can see the handful of pictures of that new pavement, new curb and gutter that was recently completed. Next. Looking at accessible properties along this roadway, following our policy, we do need to assess the properties that are determined to receive benefit based on our policy. So we had 5 residential properties that have direct access. So if you're a residential property, you're only assessed for the property that your driveway has access to. So all those homes that have properties, their backyard butting up to the roadway, they are assessed when that street that their driveway connects to is reconstructed. On the far east end of the project, in that more purplish color, we also had the Lighthouse Baptist Church, which was the church property that also had direct access to the roadway. Next. Looking at the residential assessment first, per our policy, we want to treat them more in line with a residential property in a neighborhood. So they are not assessed a greater amount inherently because they're on a major roadway. A major roadway is wider, it has a thicker pavement section. When we calculate an assessment, it is only assuming it's a local size roadway, that same width, that same thickness. But because these are very large properties, following our policy, we assess 45% of the project costs that are adjacent to their property on their half of the roadway. So looking at that, it does have an estimated assessment of $30,000 per policy. Similar to the other project, we did do special benefit appraisals, which is $8,300. So following our policy, that's what was proposed or what is proposed as an assessment for that project. Thinking about the number of units, that really doesn't play into that 30,000, because when we did the assessment calculation, we really just looked at the roadway adjacent to those properties. But in the end, that benefit appraisal governs, which is very typical when you have these larger properties along a roadway. And then looking at the average annual payment, for example, of that specific one at 15 years, if it did go to the taxes, payable over 15 years at 3%, it's about $688 per year. Next. For Lighthouse Baptist Church, once again, it looks at that adjacent roadway area that is reconstructed. Now it's a very, very long property with a lot of frontage on 80th Street. So just straight looking at our calculation gives a very high assessment, but we do complete that benefit appraisal because we know we only can assess what the benefit appraisal supports for the actual property there that's owned by Lighthouse Baptist Church, which is $16,700. So that is the proposed assessment amount, which for the average annual payment over 15 years would be a little over $1,300. Next. Funding breakdown for this project, where the money actually came from, some funding from sanitary and water utility. Those are not participating costs. Our state aid funding can't pay for those, so those are out of our utility funds for those repairs. While there was a large amount of stormwater and streetlight work, several $100,000 of each, those are eligible costs to be paid for by MSA. So looking at that MSA municipal state aid funding, about $4.3 million. And the city gets about $1.7 million each year. So what we did is we got in advance that will then be paid off over the next, roughly year and a half to 2 years to pay for this project. So that's really in large what paid for this project. And then at the bottom, you can see the total assessments proposed of about $58,000. Next. In terms of the assessment, this is the same as what we just discussed for the West Point project. This assessment is proposed to be deferred for an entire year due to the COVID-19 pandemic without interest. So owners would have until November 15th, 2021 to make payments if they wish on this assessment if it was approved tonight, to kind of buy that assessment down or pay it off before it gets levied to the taxes. So if that does happen, it would be not something that they would see on their taxes until spring of 2022. Like I mentioned, about a year and a half from now. If it does go to the taxes, it's payable over 15 years at 1.5% above the bond rate, which would also be 3% for this project. Partial payment is allowed, $500 minimum, and that same deferral is available. And folks can reach out to our finance department if they have a question on the deferral. And that deferral is after this 1 year defer without interest that we're doing due to the pandemic. Next. One thing I'd like to mention is there was an assessment letter that we received from the property owners at 9400 80th Street. That was received yesterday on Tuesday, November 17th, and that was provided to the mayor and council in advance of this meeting, and we do have that on file with our public record as well. Next. Recommendations tonight are on the screen, and I'll stand for any questions that the council has.
All right, first Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ryan. I've got a few questions about the project itself, which I'll present first, and then I'll end with my third question about the assessments. But I know that this road required a substantial reconstruction, largely because of the fact that the subbase was so bad, and we had a lot of underground work to do and things of that nature. And it took a little bit longer, but I think it turned out really good. As you know, I'm a little bit of a road geek, and I like pavement management because I think it's one of those absolutely necessary things that we oftentimes don't think about with regard to the roadways, which are assets to our community. Are you comfortable with the way the project turned out and the contractor that we worked with? And I know there was some conversation about some of the manhole covers needed to be adjusted, and I think that all got done as well. Are you feeling confident that this roadway, which is heavily traveled, was put together in such a way that we've done it right and it's going to last us for the time period that we projected?
Yes, Councilmember Olson, Mr. Mayor. The project did turn out, I think, very well. There were certain periods of the project that I think people saw what maybe felt like not a lot of work going on, but there was a major amount, I didn't mention that, of private utility work as well. That really has to be done somewhat in conjunction, but there was that phase in August when it was really just Excel Energy trying to get their equipment and poles and whatnot out of the way so we could build that trail. So, and it is all that underground work. You got all the storm sewer that takes a month where you don't really see much happening because every day they dig holes and they bury it. So, so I think that went very well. We had that unprecedented snow event the day we were supposed to pave the wear course. That was very unfortunate, but luckily Mother Nature was kind to us, and we had that great Saturday where we could get it paved. So, and the actual paving job is very good, and we've been addressing punch list stuff like we do, punch list stuff as we go, and you'll see a lot of that reseeding work next year as we touch things up and whatnot. But overall, it was a good project. So
good. I want to make sure people feel like they got their money's worth. And with respect to money, I've looked at the assessment rolls here, and of course you saw the email that I sent, and appreciated your response. There's the letter of the law and there's the spirit of the law. And with respect to this specific project, it looks as though the assessments for at least the residential properties are a little steep. And so I wondered if you could maybe touch on some of the options we might have to provide some relief to those property owners, the residential property owners, based on the response that you sent us in writing, that would be, very similar in circumstance to what we've done in the past with projects of this nature on major roadways.
Yes, Councilmember Olson, Mr. Mayor. When looking at specifically residential assessments, looking at some past projects where we have had a major roadway being redone, 80th Street back in 2016 is an example. We've also had an adjacent neighborhood reconstruct going on. And if we had that case where you had this large lump of residential properties and some were on 80th Street, you really looked at them all together. So they all saw the same assessment amount. So there was more of that efficiency of scale of additional homes in the neighborhood, and that assessment policy calculation then was lower. So in this case, we did not have a specific neighborhood to compare to, but that's what we have seen in the past, where you can use that. We have used that assessment amount for an adjacent neighborhood when available. And as I mentioned in the email, we do have a project directly adjacent that we are planning for 2021 that we had some information available on in terms of what those assessments would be in this kind of exact neighborhood.
Yeah, I saw the note that you sent us that gave us some comparables for next year, and I think the number we looked at was $4,100. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councilmember Olson. That's right now it's still in draft form, but we're finalizing that as we speak, and that'll be before the council here at the next meeting.
So would it be reasonable then to potentially utilize that number for the residential homeowners in this particular project area?
Yep, Councilmember Olson, looking at those past examples, yeah, there was 90th Street back in 2015. I think, looking at past precedent, that wouldn't be out of line with what we have done in the past by any means.
Okay, well then I would ask my council colleagues to consider that as we work through the public hearing here to take that $4,100 assessment amount under advisement for these property owners, so that they have a little bit of relief from what appears to be kind of a steep assessment amount for this specific project, just based on the cost of the project, the fact that it's a major roadway, et cetera. I appreciate you providing that information. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Olson. Any other questions from council at this moment before I do the open or actual public hearing? All right, then I will go ahead and make it official, and we will open the public hearing. I am aware that Christine de la Forest Garcia did want to speak. So maybe we will start with you, if you would like to, and just state your name and address for the record, if you're able to.
Yes. My name is Kristen De La Forest Garcia, and my address is 9400 80th Street South.
Fantastic. What do you have for us tonight?
Well, we were the property that submitted the letter. So
Yep.
thank you for the confirmation that you have seen that and you and the council members have taken that into consideration. We didn't know if that was something we should read tonight during the meeting, or if you, since you have a copy of it, if we just kind of summarize some of our concerns.
Yeah, I think what you could do if you want, it is automatically entered into the record. So it is going to be there. So it isn't that you have to read it. And I would assume a little bit here that based on the feedback you heard from Councilmember Olson, our desire was to look at something a little different in price than what the original number was for the homeowners along 80th Street.
Yeah.
But if you do want to bring up some key points to share with us, that would be perfect time to do it right now.
Oh, sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Olson for, I'm assuming you read the letter, and for kind of summarizing some of our concerns about the costs related to the project. And we do want to compliment the work that has been done. It is beautiful, and we are enjoying the new streetlights and all those parts of a more safe roadway. So we do thank you for that. I think our largest concern was the fact that $8,300 is a lot of money to save or to come up with, and that the only alternative option was to take a 15-year loan with the 3% interest rate. And so we were asking to both, for two things: to lower the assessment amount or to consider an interest-free payment plan. And Councilmember Olson did mention lowering that amount, and that is definitely an amount that we would feel more comfortable with. So thank you for reading our letter and taking our concerns into consideration.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you, by the way. One thing I'll say about your letter, it's sometimes we get letters that are like not nice. Yours was a very positive, wanting to do your part, but asking for some help. And those are the ones that I love to deal with, because those are the ones that we can truly help work through. So, and thank you for the comment on the road. The road is, I don't know about you, I joke with Ryan that at least now when I go down that road, because I live near there,
Sure.
I won't spill my coffee going to City Hall by all the bumps. So, and they're all laughing because it really did happen.
That's true. We love living in Cottage Grove. We chose this city, and we just thank you for what the city of Cottage Grove has to offer our family, and again for your considerations tonight.
Thank you. Did I hear somebody else was trying to? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in real quick. First of all, I appreciate the kudos, but really it goes to the entire council and the staff, because we've all had this conversation and want to do the right thing for our residents. And so I'm just the one who's the loud one, the big mouth, I guess. But everybody really had already considered this and wants to do the right thing. And secondly, I just wanted to compliment you as well. Myron's right when he says we get some pretty inflammatory emails and letters and things at times, and yours was extremely well written, very respectful, just actually a pleasure to read, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you as well.
Fantastic. So is there anybody else out there that wants to speak on this particular item? Anybody at all? All right, not seeing anybody, and let me double check my chat room. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing portion, and I do know that we'll need to modify, if there is a desire, as I'm hearing from the council, to adjust the amount as it regards to the value on the assessment rolls. Somebody can obviously move for the adoption with that new number for the residential. I'm assuming Administrator Levitt, is that okay?
Yes, Mayor and members of the council. If you choose to use the $4,100 as the residential property amount, The resolution has one statement in the therefore statement in the first paragraph that references 58,200. That amount would be 37,200. And then we would just ask that the roll that's following the resolution would indicate then that the 4,100 would be for the 5 residential properties noted in the roll.
Okay. Sounds good. So if there is, if not, I can help with it because I wrote those down, but is there a council member that would like to make a particular motion?
Mayor, I'll move that we adopt the assessment roll for 80th Street reconstruction project with the addendums as noted by Administrator Levitt. How's that for taking a shortcut?
You did take the shortcut, so I guess, is that good enough for you, Jennifer? Okay. All right, so we do have the motion for those residential, with those residential properties. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thiede. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please, Joe.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for those that were on the call here this evening regarding this topic. Moving along, 10 is bid awards. There are none this evening. 11 is our regular agenda. We do have one item on our regular agenda this evening, which is the Glacial Valley Estates zoning amendment and preliminary plat. And Emily, I believe you are taking this one for us. Welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Bailey, council members. As indicated, the item before you is a request from Donna Homes for a zoning amendment and preliminary plat. The zoning amendment will change an approximate 19-acre parcel from R5 medium density to R5 medium density with the planned unit development. And the subdivision is proposed to be called Glacial Valley Estates, which is proposed to be 100 residential townhome units. Next. The project location is just west of Keats Avenue and east of the recently started development of Woodward Ponds, and then north of that Military Trail Corridor and Eastridge Woods development and south of Ravine Parkway. There are 2 existing residences and several outbuildings that are proposed to be removed as part of the project, but the remainder of these properties are tilled fields and some wooded areas throughout. A little bit of history with these 2 parcels. In 2018, a land use amendment, a rezoning, and a final plat were in fact approved. It was a project to be called Stony Brook Villas. It was, I believe, 45 duplex units, but that project was never started. So at the time Donna Homes did purchase these parcels, that final plat resolution was rescinded, and that allowed Donna Homes then to propose the new development that you have before you this evening. Next. As mentioned, again, it's proposed as 100 units of townhomes. They're proposed as 4 units per building. It will be entirely HOA maintained, so that includes the mowing and snow removal. And they are proposing additional parking as well for those visitors. The code does require 15 parking spaces. The developer is proposing 27, so plenty of room there. Next. And as I had indicated, this area is in fact guided in our land use plan for medium density, which is that 5 to 13 units per acre. The developer is proposing 10.29 units per acre, so right within that range. Next. Access to this development will be continued from, I know this is a goofy way to look at the development, but it will come from the west into the development from the Woodward Ponds development. Jody Avenue will continue then straight on through to Keats Avenue. So there will be access that way. And again, bringing traffic through this Glacial Valley development as opposed to the south. So folks will be able to gain access to Keats Avenue for travelers going north to Woodbury or south to Highway 61. And then access again directly right off of Keats Avenue. The county is in fact requiring that a right turn lane be installed as a part of this project as well. And then that Jorgensen Avenue, that north-south street within the development will in fact dead end at that north property line. The developer will be required to install a cul-de-sac as a part of this project until, of course, development continues to the north for emergency purposes at this time. Next. And as we typically see and require with all of our development, sidewalk is proposed on one side of each of the streets. As you can see, it'll be on the north side of that east-west street, and then on the east side of that north-south street. So pedestrians will have access throughout the entire development. Those fingers that you see off of each of those public streets are private little fingers to access those units, and they will be owned and maintained by the HOA. I also wanted to note that the developer is proposing that sidewalk connection. I'm going to call it the southwest corner of the project that will allow pedestrian traffic to access that existing military trail corridor that was just recently paved and installed as a part of the Woodward Ponds project. And as a part of the PUD, the city is requiring the developer to install the trail, as you can see along Keats Avenue there. So that will provide that additional trail connection from that existing trail connection that was also installed as a part of the Woodward Ponds development from that military trail corridor to the south to that 70th Street. So continuing those pedestrian connections with the development. Next. The city's long-range park plan does not include a specific future park area within these particular parcels. So the developer will in fact pay the required park dedication fee that is used, as you know, to maintain and construct existing parks. But I wanted to note that Glacial Valley Park is one of the largest parks proposed within that East Ravine development area. It is proposed to start construction, I believe, in 2022. It will be a phased construction, I believe 3 phases, but I wanted to make note that that will be a wonderful amenity for this particular development and easily accessed via the trail and sidewalk connections throughout this development as well as the Woodward Ponds. Next. The developer is proposing some substantial landscape buffers surrounding this particular development. I'll especially note that they are providing the required 75-foot buffer along Keats Avenue there. And as you can see, a substantial amount of landscaping to be included in that nice buffer from that main thoroughfare to the development. They're also proposing to maintain a handful of trees along that military trail corridor, which are some mature trees if you've been out there. So it will create, again, a very nice buffer. And then I'll just note that they are in fact meeting the minimum landscape requirements of the zoning code. So it will be, I think, from what I can tell, substantially landscaped and a beautiful development. Next. The Glacial Valley development, they'll utilize that northwest corner of the project area as their stormwater management ponding. What they've done is they've proposed this as a little bit of an expansion of the Woodward Ponds ponding, as you can see just to the south there. I just wanted to make note that both of these ponding areas will be required to be dedicated as an outlot, so they will be owned and maintained then by the city. Next. Architecture proposed for these buildings, again, a varying facade materials on the front, some of the lap siding with some stone. They are proposed to be approximately 16 square foot units, plus or minus, of course, and they are also proposing a nice covered patio area on these as well. Have you go to the next slide, Matt. Dunning Homes is also constructing this a similar product in Mississippi Dunes, but I wanted to make note that given the location of this project within that East Ravine area, staff did indicate to the developer that we'd like to see kind of some enhanced materials and different color schemes as a part of this product. So I wanted to make note that the developer is proposing This image that you see before you is, of course, the product that is down in the Mississippi Dunes development, but the developer is proposing to replace that brick with more of a stone. They're proposing some additional color adjustments as well, and again, adding a gable on the front, which again was on the previous slide, but gives a little bit more depth and varying architecture, given the location again within that East Ravine area, to align with the recently approved Woodward Ponds development, which of course has varying colors and really quite snazzy over there. I just wanted to make note of that. Next. So with that, I believe that covers that, but I will leave the recommendation before you. Staff will be here to answer any questions, and I also believe that Mr. Donne is on the call as well if you have any specific questions for him.
All right. What I think we'll do first is see if there's any questions from council at this point, and then we'll see if the developer would like to speak on that. So council, any questions for Pat or for the staff?
There's mute.
Oh.
Anybody at all? Okay. So I believe we also have, do we still have the Mr. Gagne on?
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. Did you want to share anything or talk to us about anything regarding this project?
Well, I think Emily did a great job of explaining it. Like she had mentioned, I'm building a product. This is very similar in Mississippi Dunes right now, and it's very well received by the buying public. And so we're improving on that and taking it to Glacial Valley Estates.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad to have you coming to town. Are you? What is kind of your time frame on beginning construction? Are you thinking spring, or do you think sooner than that?
No, it wouldn't be before spring.
Yep.
I'll be doing the mass grading, and then after that we'll be doing the storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and streets, and trying to get that work done in early summer, and then maybe possibly pull a permit on this middle summer, possibly, if everything goes right. It depends on the weather and if we have a wet spring or a dry spring. This year was good.
Fantastic. All right. Any questions for the developer in this case, council?
Mayor?
Yes, is that Councilmember Dennis?
It is. I would just like to pay a compliment to Mr. Donne. Obviously, he's a true gentleman with exemplary tolerance for some of what he had to deal with at our last planning commission meeting. So I look forward to having you here, and I think your commitment to this project and reasonable nature to work through this and all the details really speaks a lot to me. So I wanted to thank you for your approach on handling this.
No, I appreciate that, council member. I really do, and we'll make it work. Everything is okay now, and we're working through the little problems we have.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. So council, this is not, I didn't see any, I guess I can ask, there are a couple more people that are out in participants. Is there anybody that would like to have a question or speak to us on this item that's out on the attendees list? I didn't think so, but I wanted to check. All right, so council, we do have two separate motions before us that we'll have to do separately with roll call votes. So if council is so interested, I'll ask somebody to go with number one.
Mayor, I can make that recommendation for us to adopt ordinance number 1034, approving the zoning amendment to change the zoning of the 18.95 acre parcel from R5 medium density residential to R5 medium density residential with a planned unit development.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Dennis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Mills. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call vote. Joe?
Councilmember Mills?
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis?
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. And then we have number 2, which council member would like to start with that resolution?
Mayor, I'll make that motion to adopt resolution 2020-148, approving the preliminary plat for a residential subdivision to be called Glacial Valley Estates, which will consist of 100 residential lots for multi-family units.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Mills, and I think I'm seeing a wave seconded by Councilmember Thiede. Again, council, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Joe, please do the roll.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the developer for investing in our community.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey, and thank you, council members, for your time tonight.
You got it. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
All right. Next item under regular agenda is B, which is our business retention and expansion program that we do. And Matt is going to take us through this. So Matt, welcome to the council meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. I know a couple of you have already had this presentation as part of the EDA with our director, Christine Costello, so I have a lot to live up to here. She did recommend that maybe I do a interpretive dance to change things up. Unfortunately, since I'm running the meeting, I can't turn them on camera, but I do want to assure you that I'm doing that as part of this presentation. So just a little bit of backstory as we get into this. The Cottage Grove Business Retention Expansion Program started back in 2017. And what the BRNE and the intention of the BRNE is to make sure that we keep retaining and expanding our businesses within Cottage Grove, as they're a vital part of what we've seen in not only our business park, but also throughout our entire commercial development in the community. In 2017, we did partner with the University of Minnesota Extension to implement our BRNE. That consisted of putting together a 41-member or 20-member volunteer task force and conducting over 41 business interviews. The priorities and projects that came out of there was 5 total. They consisted of working with the chamber to better market our community, developing more workforce and getting more skilled professionals in our community, working to develop more broadband and assisting slow speeds that were resulting in our business and our commercial and industrial districts, working with code enforcement to better improve our communication with businesses, and then finally to advise our businesses in the community in terms of what is out there and what's available for our community, for our businesses in the community. So some of the outcomes that came out, we formally started the Cottage Grove Convention and Visitors Bureau and started to work on that. We also worked with South Washington School District to connect them with Renewal by Anderson, 3M, and some of our other business park members to start our inventor space, or for them to start the inventor space. And then Comcast, we worked with them and met with them to run high-speed internet along 97th Street. And finally, working to advise our businesses, we did continue and make sure to continue our business retention expansion program in 2018. In 2018, we focused more on businesses that were new to the community and also those that did not partake in the program in 2017. We did also scale back. We did not go with the University of Minnesota again, and we didn't have that volunteer task force. So we did scale back to 12 businesses that were interviewed. Overall, the priority and projects that came out of those, there was 4 overall. Again, high-speed internet was a priority. Housing in terms of workforce and market housing, and working with developers to kind of promote Cottage Grove as an opportunity for that sort of development. Commercial beautification and assisting businesses, and then working through code enforcement communication as a results to signs. Over the outcomes that came from 2018 is we started the facade improvement program in 2019. So far to date, we have approved 4 projects with a total of 100,000. 2 of those projects are actually going on right now at the Culvers and Jamaica Square. And then additionally, we continue to market our community to high density housing developers at ICSC, MinCar, and also at other conferences and seminars like the market rate housing summit that occurs in Golden Valley each year, and that resulted in the Grove 80 apartments that we see at the former City Hall site, which is a 120-unit, 4-story multifamily building. And this year, in the 2020, we began back in March, and we really wanted to focus on our business park businesses. Initially, when we started this, it was just before the COVID-19 pandemic came through the country and hit Minnesota. So we did do the first couple in person, but then we switched to virtual. Overall, we had 11 businesses that participated. All of them were members of our business park. The one kind of exception or borderline one is Alana Health, who we worked with to implement our bus circulator for our seniors and low-income individuals. So as part of that meeting and that discussion, we actually sat down for a BRNE with them as well. So they were included. Some of the results, the businesses that we interviewed had a total of 1,782 employees. Their average rate of pay was $18.50 per hour. Of the interviews, 7 out of the 11 indicated their sales were actually increasing, with 4 businesses indicating their sales were stable. No businesses had decreasing sales. Businesses also stated increasing sales were due to a combination of e-commerce as a result of COVID-19, new marketing efforts, premium products, happy customers, and new facilities. 8 out of 11 businesses indicated they plan to increase their employee count in the next year or more. And then the remaining businesses did state that their employment was stable. Some additional results, 7 out of 11 businesses indicated they were having a hard time finding skilled employees to fill positions due to a lack of technical skills to do the jobs. The interview also had a question that asked our businesses if we had enough housing for their employees. 2 of the businesses did indicate that we need more options, and the remaining felt that either there was enough or didn't have enough information to answer. Businesses were also asked about future investment plans the next 1 to 3 years. 7 out of 11 businesses indicated they are planning to make either major equipment purchases or renovate or expand their current facilities within that time frame. So the key priorities are projects and priorities that came out of this 2020 Business Retention Expansion Program was first housing. Continue what we've been doing and work towards marketing the Harkness area and the shops at Cottage View to area developers at conferences, events. Develop a comprehensive housing plan, which is part of our strategic plan, and then continue to promote sustainable development, increase housing density, and developing those public-private partnerships. Additionally, working on training, work with the school district to raise awareness regarding trades, work with the school district on developing post-secondary EMT courses, engage with businesses to create networks for job opportunities, and explore creation of a higher education campus, which is some of those are part of our strategic plan moving forward, and we will discuss that more as we move forward here in this presentation. Transportation, another big one that came out of the BRNE this year was, and part of the action steps there is to work to fulfill our bus rapid transit station for the Red Rock corridor that is in planning and through the state legislature, and then develop a bus rapid transit station at the shops at Cottage View. And then finally, commercial, continue our work that we started with the Visitor Bureau in 2020 to increase visitors to the community for the attraction of new restaurants and hotels, and then market commercial properties for development to developers and brokers at events like MidCar and ICSC. So the BRNE survey also included community factors. These were on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being poor and 5 being great. The results were used to determine what overall businesses knew about the community and how those factors had impacted their business in the community. Some businesses did skip questions if they did not feel they had enough information. However, each community factor had to have at least 3 businesses give an answer to be included. So with that, out of those factors came the top 3 factors were Economic Development Authority, the Fire Department, and Planning and Zoning Departments. The bottom 3 factors were public transportation, customized training programs, and cultural opportunities. And we kind of left it open-ended to what cultural opportunities meant for each business as we interviewed them. Overall, most of the business that we interviewed counted cultural opportunities as a lack of diverse restaurant options. We also gave businesses the opportunity to list our strengths and weaknesses as open-ended in terms of how it affects their business climate and what kind of business climate we have here in the community. Some of the strengths they mentioned were great staff to work with, the great communication with the city, strong workforce, accessibility to the airport, business friendly, great incentives, utilities, and infrastructure. The Hero Center addition to the community was great. Overall, they did also appreciate the traffic light that was installed at 95th and Jamaica as well. Some of the weaknesses, and I guess there's one kind of glaring one that came out throughout this interview, and I think is the overall largest takeaway really from the BRNE is currently there is no public transportation for workforce. A lot of these businesses, as they're seeing positions being harder and harder to fill, they're looking for more and more options to bring in workforce from outside the Cottage Grove city, looking at St. Paul and the surrounding suburbs, and how do we get those individuals and those employees into Cottage Grove. So that was kind of the number one weakness. Then they also brought up some lack of housing in terms of affordable apartments. Another time it came up in terms of higher end single family for executives, but also some apartments as well for lower end workers. Then a couple of businesses also mentioned the need for another hotel and the need for more chain restaurants or restaurant destinations for both their employees and when they bring people in for business meetings. So looking forward, these 2020 projects and the priorities that we listed here will allow the EDA and the City Council to set action steps for 2021. I know it is part of our strategic plan that we're going to be looking at in January 9th of 2021 coming up here. We'll be looking at some of these priorities and projects as well in terms of how do we implement them and putting them potentially into our strategic plan moving forward. Additionally, for 2021, when we look at the BRNE program, we will focus, I should say, on commercial businesses to really see how they are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and how it is affecting their business and the overall business climate as we move forward. So with that, Mayor Bailey, I turn it over to you and City Council for any other questions or comments.
Sounds good. I guess what I'll do is I'll start. I do have more of a comment kind of question in a second, but Council, do you have any comments that you want to make to Matt on the information that he shared?
Yeah, I do.
All right, Councilmember Thiede.
Hey, Matt. So I sit on the Red Rock corridor, and I also sit on East Metro Strong. And right now, on East Metro Strong, they came out and showed some planned bus rapid transit routes and transportation routes and things like that. And we weren't even on their radar in a sense. And so when inquiring more, because I actually got, geez, how come we're not even on the map, So they said, well, the ridership has been down, this year a little bit with the COVID and everything. I imagine it has. So I guess I'd be looking to our businesses to find out a little bit more specifically what kind of public transportation is it potentially getting people possibly coming on the bus to the park and ride and then providing some other transportation from the park and ride to businesses? Is it providing something from that would go around to the businesses? I guess before we have another meeting, or maybe before we talk about it at our strategy session, maybe we could find out from those people who talked about transportation, kind of what kind of transportation would benefit their employees, a little bit more specifically.
Councilmember Thiede, council members, I think that is a valid point, and we can definitely make sure that we can get that information. I will say, as part of the interviews, I think one of the strong things that came out is right now the transportation that we have at the park and ride, it's rapid transportation, and the fact that it comes in the morning, comes back in the evening. What many of our businesses are looking for is a regular option to bring people in and out, as manufacturing logistics is a large part of our businesses. In the business park, they need to have options for employees to get into the community at varying different times. So that's something that currently we don't have in the community, is that flexibility of when they come in and out. I think the bus rapid transit, if I'm mistaken, or if I'm not mistaken, would be every 20 minutes or something to that regard. So that is really what they're looking for. I know we're kind of in a weird dynamic here with COVID, that right now public transportation is seeing a decrease in ridership overall because of the, this work from home policies and the social distancing that is required. So we're kind of in a lull right now in terms of public transportation use, but I think a lot of the businesses are seeing the opportunity that once we get out of this, it will start to bounce back, and they'll start to need to get those options again and look at some solutions for that. But I think overall we can put that together to that information for you and reach out to those businesses to get specifically what they're looking for.
All right. A real neat thing would be like a map for each business that kind of shows where their employees are coming from. And then you put it all together and we get a great picture of where we need to bring people in from for their business such. So, but at any rate, thanks.
Other council members, any questions at this point? All right, seeing none, just a couple of comments, and it's actually kind of a good segue to what Councilmember Thede was just talking about. One of the things that we have heard through the various networks that I've been a part of is that there is a significant source of employees, if you will, or people that are looking for work on the more of the east side of St. Paul. And the challenge that we've been told is, how do you get those employees from the east side of St. Paul down to Cottage Grove to work at some of the places that we have here? So the public transportation piece is of concern. What I wanted to share with the group as a whole is, as some may be aware, I'm on the Transportation Advisory Board with the Met Council. And ironically, today we were just talking about funding as it relates to mass transit and so on. We're talking literally, dollars in the hundreds of millions of dollars range. And the reason I bring that up is, we're talking about money at the Met Council or the Transportation Advisory Board. We're talking about federal funds and state funds and such that go out that don't even start at this point now until 2025, 26, 27. And to your point, Councilmember Thede, we're not even on their radar. We're not there. There's no, even the Gold Line, which is the line that's being proposed going through Woodbury to Hudson, Wisconsin, they're still kind of working through the details. And there was even a glitch, if you will, today that was discussed at our meeting. But it will be a good point, I think, when we get to our workshop in January of how do we probably are going to have to approach this thing differently, or tap other resources or something. I don't know. We've got to your point, we're going to have to do something different because at the way funding is currently, and I know things can change, but the way funding is currently and the process and then the ridership and all that kind of things that we need to look at, we're probably at least 10 to 20 years away at the earliest before we'd even, in essence, get on their radar. So that is something, it is a challenge, and it's something that I know even Washington County as a general is trying to push because some of the members that I'm part of is also represented in Washington County. So just thought I would throw that out there. But even the Gold Line, which has been approved, is still having some issues with funding because of the way it works. So, and of course, everybody wants the money in their area, and I get that. But at this point, they keep putting it into those cities that are more inner ring suburbs and not out to, I call the outside of the core of the 494 loop, which of course that's us. So that is, I'm not giving up, but that is something that we're going to have to we're going to be challenged.
And
yeah, Councilmember Thede.
And just to make mention, I think it would be great if we got these businesses involved, the Renewal by Anderson's, the Up North Plastics, the 3Ms, and all those businesses kind of into a support group also to show people that we do need to get some transportation and bringing people in and so forth. So I think that's something we can maybe discuss too. So.
Good point. Any other council comments on this item? All right, Matt, thank you, by the way, for sharing this information. I think it's one of those things that I think our businesses appreciate about us, is that we are looking, we are listening, we are asking the questions. Where we can make immediate changes or very early changes, we do it. There are the things that sometimes are out of our span of control, but we'll try to figure out a way to make it work. So thank you for continuing to offer the ear to our local business community. All right. Next item on our agenda is council comments requests. So I'll do my normal. I'll start with council member. Oh, I don't see her on my screen here. Council member Mills.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. I just want to wish everyone a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. I know it will be probably a different year for most folks, but please be safe. Please keep yourself healthy and enjoy the time that you have, whether it is virtual or if you are able to be with your family, enjoy that time. So that's all I have to share.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Councilmember Dennis.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a very simple message. Sometimes when things are tough, what all of us have to do is find small victories, find a little silver lining that might be in the cloud. And in this case, around the Thanksgiving holiday, find whatever you can to be grateful for and start to collect those as small trophies and put them up on the mythical mantelpiece for yourself. And use that as a motivator to start creating momentum. Everybody at one time or another needs to hear a positive message. And even in the middle of all the hardship and things that are going on, there are still plenty of really good things happening. So I wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and we'll look forward to seeing you here at the next council meeting. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Councilmember Dennis. Councilmember Thiede.
Yeah, I would just say also ditto in terms of happy Thanksgiving, and it's gonna definitely a different year, and we just gotta kind of stay strong and stay safe, and like Councilmember Dennis said, you got to try to find the little bit of silver lining and pluck it out. You go on Facebook and you see so many negative comments when the governor states this or governor states that. The first question I'd ask people is, well, what would you do? And so I ask people before getting really snarky and doing some terrible comment or something like that. Think about 3 nice things you could say about somebody or a situation first, and then you can rant and rave all you want about it.
There you go. Lessons from Councilmember Thiede this evening.
There you go.
There you go. All right, Councilmember Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. It is November the 18th, 2020, and River Oaks Golf Course is open for business. We are blessed with 50-degree weather both today and tomorrow, and I know that those diehards out there who want to get one last opportunity to get 18 holes in are going to be very happy to hear that River Oaks is open. So if you want a tee time, make sure you get on the phone, make a phone call, 651-438-2121. They would love to have you come down and get on the course one last time before we ultimately have to shut it down for the entire year. But I encourage anybody who wants to get out to play, make sure you take advantage of the nice weather and say hi to the folks at River Oaks one last time. That's it for me.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm going to ditto what everybody else said, but this is one of those meetings where kind of at the beginning of the meeting we had some, I'll call it real positive information, and we were able to share though different, a Facebook Live event with us lighting our Christmas tree and offering up some opportunities as you hear about Christmas lights and making people feel good during this holiday season. I also unfortunately have some sad news to pass along to the public that may not be aware. And that is former Mayor Roger Peterson passed away peacefully in his home on Tuesday, November 17th. He was 80 years of age. Mr. Peterson died in his sleep, and he is survived by his wife, Myra Peterson, who many know was our county commissioner, and their many children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Roger Peterson, he lived in our city for more than 4 decades, serving as our mayor of Cottage Grove for 4 consecutive terms from 1972 through 1987. I can tell you personally, Roger was a longtime family friend, and he was definitely a mentor of mine. He was always very generous with his time in providing guidance and, frankly, some historical perspectives to me as well as to others of us on the council. And I can tell you that we will miss him dearly. He does hold the record for the most time served as the city's mayor. And I can share with you, as I even spoke with Roger in one of my visits with him just a couple months ago, that he always joked that he wanted me to break his record. And I will just say that it has been an honor, frankly, to serve in the same capacity as he did for so many years. And frankly, he is a big reason why I'm here today as the mayor of Cottage Grove, but it's also the way Cottage Grove is today as an incredible place to live and raise a family to this very day is due to the livelihood and the life of Roger Peterson. Mayor Peterson was well known throughout the city and the state as he advocated for residents at the Minnesota legislature through decades of dedicated public service, including more than 30 years of work with the Association of Metro Cities, or Metro Municipalities, I should say, which is known today as Metro Cities. And ironically, Roger was the one that introduced me to Metro Cities, whereas I am at this moment the president of Metro Cities. So I have that beginning of my time there due to Roger. Another interesting note, Roger Peterson helped create the local Youth Service Bureau and the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission. And he also served on the Cottage Grove Economic Development Authority. And he was, of course, a very generous volunteer, offering his time and his energy and services to everything from when Cottage Grove had the JCs to the Lions Club, Stone Soup Thrift Shop, and Strawberry Fest, even before it was Strawberry Fest, and all the different names that it's been over the year, the Great Grove Get Together, and so on. I just want to say, Roger, please rest in peace, and thank you for your service to our community. And obviously, and I know I speak for the entire council staff and all the citizens of Cottage Grove, our thoughts and prayers are with you and his wonderful wife, Myra, and all of his family who is surrounding and at home with Myra, matter of fact, this evening. So we don't have any details at this moment, specifically to funeral arrangements due obviously to COVID. In my conversations with Myra, when we were told about Roger's passing, if anybody knows Myra, she is an outdoorsy person. She has a gorgeous yard, lots of flowers and such. She doesn't want to really have any type of, she didn't call it a memorial, she called it a celebration of life that she would like to have hopefully next summer, where we can be outdoors and hopefully beyond this COVID situation, where we can all share some great stories of the years that we have spent, for at least in my case, as well as many others, to what Roger has brought to our community. So again, on behalf of myself, and I think I could say for everybody else, rest in peace, Roger, Mayor Peterson for Cottage Grove. Okay. So I don't want to leave it necessarily on that bad note or sad note, but he was an amazing gentleman. The next item on our agenda this evening is a workshop session, which is open to the public. We do have one this evening, and that workshop is to discuss the 2020 revised budget and fund balance allocation. And after that, it's on our agenda. It calls for a workshop closed to the public, which there is none this evening, and then we will be adjourning after that. So I am going to go immediately right to the revised budget and fund balance allocation, and our finance director, Robin Rowland, will start us through this process. So Robin, welcome before the council.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Before you tonight, we just want to do a quick and dirty on where we are with 2020 revenue and expenditures and fund balance allocation before we adopt the revised and 2021 budget resolution on December 2nd. You would think in a year where we've had several shutdowns and nothing but problems with the pandemic, that we might see a drop in revenue, and this is not the case. In Cottage Grove, we had an adopted general fund revenue budget at the beginning of the year of $18,266,500. Due to an extraordinary increase in building permits, or I shouldn't say extraordinary, a continued increase in building permits and fees for engineering for our public projects, we anticipate an increase of $1.1 million from, as I said, building permits and engineering fees. We also have a couple of smaller recreational smaller decreases, including recreational charges, money that we had originally budgeted coming from SWCTC, and our fines revenue is down this year as well. We also see an increase of $123,000 in grant revenues that came from FEMA for last year's flooding, for 2019's flooding. And then, of course, we had a grant from the state with regard to our COVID-related overtime through the emergency management area. We expect an increase in our revenue from the budgeted number of about $1.26 million at the end of 2020. Next. For 2020, our revenue expectations, our expense expectations. Back one up, please. Thank you.
You did do this one.
No. There's one in between. What happened to it?
Is that the one?
No.
General fund summary, the next one?
No. Up there it is. Well, back up one there. No.
Sorry, Robin, this is all I have.
There's an expenditures slide in between.
Do you have it though before you, Robin, where you can share it with us?
I can tell you that the
Thank you.
Expenditures expectation that's not CARES related. This is this is okay. I'm sorry. I thought this was the CARES one. I apologize. The expense expectations are a change from normal operations. We anticipate about $163,000 decrease in expenditures for 2020 due to actually some small increases in overtime for planning and building, and then decreases in parks and recreation staffing due to the program closures that resulted from the pandemic. We had significant part-time staff that we did not have to hire this year because our programs were closed. The revenues were deleted from the revenue expectations, and here the expense-related expenditures are deleted from the expenses as well. So that's a decrease in our expected expenses, say that 5 times fast, of $163,000. Next. So our general fund summary, we anticipate at the end of this year, if we're talking net before the CARES Act, would be a increase to our bottom line of $1.423 million before our CARES Act money. Next. Now, CARES Act funding, council approved a resolution earlier this year, and the city was granted $2.8 million, of which a significant portion of that was allowed to come from police salaries and benefits, as well as COVID pay that was paid for employees who had to stay home or were involved in a quarantine situation. We also had some repurposed personnel. For example, Gwen and John Pritchard, I should say, Deputy Chief or Captain Gwen Martin and Deputy Fire Chief John Pritchard, both were 100% committed to the pandemic project, or 100% of their salary goes there. So that would be the repurposed personnel, as well as our friend Molly and a couple of other parks employees who were not able to deal with recreational projects this summer because of the pandemic, and wound up in other spots helping out, and their wages then were committed for the CARES Act funding. The total impact to the general fund for these items is a increase in revenue of approximately $1,293,000. Next. And this isn't even including items that were not part of our general fund budget. They were in other places, and we were able to do things like replace the furnaces and air handling equipment at River Oaks, the ice arena, and Public Works. Replacements had been budgeted for 2022 and beyond, and this will obviously result in a reduction in future maintenance costs for those facilities and ultimately for the general fund. But that's not a tangible number this year. Next. We also built out the River Oaks kitchen to make sure that we had enough space between employees to stop the spread of the virus. And this space will provide us with many years of additional kitchen space for the facility and for our catering operations into the future. Next. We bought a lot of IT infrastructure. We bought data storage that was originally budgeted for 2021, so you will not see that in the 2021 budget. There were significant amounts of video conferencing improvements, City Hall and the roll call area, Public Works. The website was part of this as well. And then, of course, all the computers and servers for telework for our staff who were working from home during the course of the most recent and future pandemic shutdown. Next. And of course, we were able to replace the 800 megahertz radios because of their ability to have hands-free operation and programming. We had been budgeting $75,000 a year in our equipment replacement fund. We did that in 2019, and then we were going to do it in 2021 to 2024. This complete replacement this year will free up $75,000 a year in the equipment replacement fund over the next 4 years. They also bought the Polaris side-by-side so that officers could ride safely together in this modified side-by-side, and that was a cost of $38,000. Next. So with the revenue increase and expenditure decrease, the total impact is a $2.7 million increase to the fund balance. As you know, the city has a fund balance policy where at the end of the year, if there are excess funds from in excess of 55% of the future budget, as well as set-asides for future items, those funds are then dedicated to 4 separate funds, including closed debt, equipment replacement, municipal buildings, and future pavement management. In consultation with the city's auditors, we have discussed what their recommendation in order to do the appropriate set-asides, should council choose to do so. We've discussed earlier this year the concern regarding future use of the equipment replacement fund, which should have about $1 million in the fund balance. We'd like to see it there at all times. Council had discussed setting aside about $1 million to go to the equipment replacement fund for future projects. Also, we would want to talk about assigning an additional $250,000 in funding in order to balance the 2021 budget due to an implementation of the compensation study. We've talked with most of you regarding the compensation study and the opportunity to bring all of the positions in the compensation study to the level that they've been recommended to be at as of January 1st, 2021. We have had money set aside for doing just that. The difference between what that would cost for 2021 and what the set aside would be approximately $250,000, which we could assign in the fund balance and note in the revised 2020 budget resolution that we were doing that set aside in order to balance the 2021 budget. Questions?
Just as I guess for the general public, and then I'll open it. I don't know that everybody's watching at the moment, but for the general public. So when we talk about transferring out to the equipment replacement fund, and you look at that number, a general citizen might go, why do you need that kind of money in the equipment replacement fund? And I guess what on the one question I would have, and I don't know if Ryan or Robin, you can answer it right off the bat, top of your head. Obviously, we have all of our vehicles that are on a kind of a rotation schedule due to maintenance needs and things like that. So we have a process in place that if a piece of equipment becomes more cost, it costs us more to keep fixing it than it is in essence to replace it. We do that. But the one piece of equipment, which I know we're going to be looking at in the near future here, that multiple of those is plow trucks. Do you have an estimated number of what a plow truck or one of our trucks that we use at Public Works, what the average cost is per truck?
Right now, an average truck, plow truck, is about $260,000. And as we discussed earlier this year, there were 2 that were requested for rotation in 2021. We had originally talked about, having some additional funding that we could dedicate to that, and therefore that $1 million was recommended it's being recommended by staff in order to be able to fund into the future the replacement costs for plow trucks as well as other trucks that are on the schedule for replacement. What has happened over the last 5 to 7 years is that every year we assign a certain amount of money to be transferred out of the general fund into the equipment replacement fund. Unfortunately, the amounts we've been transferring out have not fully funded the expenditures for a particular year. And so consequently, we've kind of been deficit spending for 5 or 7 of those years. We would need to build up the equipment replacement fund. This could do that for us to give us a good starting point for 2021. We do have more slides that I just wanted to see if there were questions in between.
Perfect. Any other questions, council, at this point until she keeps going here? All right, Robin, you keep going.
All right, next. So if we were to do exactly what we put on the previous slide, and that is transfer as part of the revised budget, $1 million to the equipment replacement fund, and to set aside $250,000 for the implementation of the compensation study for 2021, we would still have any balance that would be left over that would be assigned according to the fund balance policy that's in existence to the 4 funds that we discussed just a couple slides ago. And that would be approximately 35% of the remainder to the debt service fund, 25% more going to the equipment replacement fund. So between the 2 items, a total of about $1.3 million. Building fund would get $217,000 or 15%, and then future pavement management would see about a 10% portion of that remaining fund balance. These are ballpark figures based on that 2.7 million. Next. And we asked the question too about how can this benefit future projects. Council has obviously a very strong interest in some CIP items that we discussed earlier on this year, and I would call on Jennifer or Ryan to talk about what does this mean with regard to those projects.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, as we look at East Point Douglas, we know it's probably one of your highest priority projects in the CIP, given the challenges we have at the intersection with Cub and Jamaica and East Point Douglas. So what we would propose is the money that you're essentially setting aside for the future debt service or future pavement management gives us the funding to essentially start the feasibility report for this project, start the preliminary design, and start the right-of-way acquisition process. We know that those things all take a lot of time, but we also feel that this project could compete very well for any stimulus funds that could come down. But as part of that stimulus, usually it has to be shovel ready, and we need to have right-of-way acquired as part of it. So we could use some of the future pavement management dollars or the debt service to help initiate this project. The next slide. We talk about the Ravine Parkway at the shops at Cottage View. Also by the fact that we are putting additional dollars into the closed debt, that buys down our future debt for that project if we desire to move that forward. As staff, we continue to make that project shovel ready because we know that if there's a stimulus package, either state or federally, we want to be competitive for it. And it also provides us that flexibility to continue to work with developers in the area and also a future community center in that area. So it provides us some funding flexibility in the future by these set aside dollars. The next project is 80th Street. And what's interesting with this is, you know, a lot of times we want to move that project forward because of the pavement condition. And obviously we've seen when you redo a street, it really revitalizes it with lights and trails. But one of the things that staff would be recommending is that we maybe hold this in the CIP the way it currently is, because we are seeing additional growth. With our multifamily unit developments, we're seeing redevelopment opportunities and growth there. So obviously when we do construction, some of the challenges that poses to businesses, reduced access. And so right now, coming out of COVID, or hopefully coming out of COVID, we don't want to create any hardships for those businesses in that business district. Plus that TIF district decertifies in 2025. So hopefully you see that we can move some of these larger projects forward, providing us some different funding options with the fund balance that we have going forward. And so we just wanted to highlight that for you, just showing that benefit going into the future and not just today. So we would be happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Thiede.
So, yeah, I'd like to, looks great. I mean, it looks like we've actually in a time of hardship have had some positive things, and that's good. We've seen the increased revenue. We've seen decreased expenses for the city and the employees of the city. We've seen no real hardships related to their jobs. And even each of us council members, we haven't really seen. We all have our jobs and everything. So one of the things that I would really think could be appropriate. We've and actually as a EDA and everything, we've given helped businesses out and things like that. And yet, the one thing I guess I'd like to see is that for the residents of the community. I mean, originally when we were looking at last year's budget, we were at a 2.99% increase, and we thought, well, we can do this or that. So we changed it to 3.99. And I guess what I'd like to do is actually take a look at how do we, and at the 3.99, there was a lot of people. There's some that would in our reference properties. There were some that would go down some. More of them would go up a little bit. I'd like to see us use a little bit of this, and if we get down to the 2.99 again, I'd say at least go to 3.5. And what that would do is, on the average of our reference properties, actually every the most of the residents in the city would see anywhere from 0 increase to even maybe a $100 decrease in their actual property tax of the portion of the city. And I just think that it would be a great statement to be actually help out the citizens, the residents of our community, and to actually take some of this benefit that we've seen and give it back to those residents. So I would actually, push for seeing us reduce that 3.99, maybe back down to the 2.99, or at the very least to the 3.5.
Okay. Other council members?
Here.
Yeah, is that Councilmember Dennis?
It is. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Thiede, for those thoughts. One thing that I would like to reiterate is a statement that we've used several different times during the course of this year, and that is through the articulation and management of our fiscal program, we have been able to achieve a scenario where I believe the number is 83% of all households in the community are going to pay at or slightly less than what they did last year. And that comes along with the basis of more amenities and other special features within the community that make it an even better place to live. So as I look at that and I think about, all the hard work that we've done as a council and transferring, our thought process and directed to the staff, that we've done a really good job of achieving that. Would it be a wonderful thing to be able to kick some additional money back down on that to lower the percent? It certainly would. The challenge that I see with it is that we still have a business to run. And so I want to kind of go back and touch on what the mayor brought up, which was about the plow trucks that we need, that we use all year long. And I believe that the number, if I recall from one of our budget meetings, is that we might be looking at within, a short number of years' time, maybe replacing up to, I think it was 8 of those trucks, and coming in at $750,000 per truck is, or what was it, 270,000? My bad. Yeah. Per truck is a lot of money, and it kind of gets us to a point where, and I know Dave, you in particular like to look at the measurements coming out of PubWorks and looking at all of the maintenance and operation factors, as we look at holding trucks longer, eventually we get to a point where we're paying more to keep that truck on the road than what it's even worth. And that takes value away from the community. So, I like the idea that we can parcel some money away to handle at least that portion of our operation, which we're on the clock with. And it's something that we need to do because, that's an asset to the city that's used in part to accommodate, part of the safety that we provide to the community, to have roads that are plowed for people to have safe access to and from. So looking at some of the other things that we have there, potentially, buying a little bit of the debt load down and redistributing some funds into those 4 key areas, I think it's reasonable to do that at this point. And as was pointed out, we really haven't seen degradation to our earning power here. And the reason for that is the community is still growing at a substantial clip. I think already this month, and we're looking at the 18th, I think we have in excess of 30 new house permits again this month so far. So people are coming here. They love the fact that we have good value and a great community to live in. And I think that, all of this comes back to, the direction of our council, the hard work of our staff, and everybody working together through our commissions in order to make a lot of these good choices happen on behalf of everyone. So I would be, what I'd love to, have more money to put back, of course, but I think right now with where we are with this stage of the game, everything we've got going and the fact we're still growing through the top end, it seems reasonable to me at this point to go with the plan that we've all worked hard to bring to the table for this particular meeting. So that would be my my goal and my vote for it, is that we would continue with the path that we have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Dennis. Any other is that Councilmember Olson? Yep.
It is.
Okay. Sorry, you popped off my screen.
Oh, I apologize. I've been known to do that periodically. It just fall off the end there. To piggyback a bit on Councilmember Dennis's comments, one of the things that I've been doing is kind of watching the reporting that comes out each month from the Federal Reserve on economics and household well-being. And it's interesting to note that for 2020, household financial conditions have actually improved versus last year. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that, people have received higher wages if they are essential workers. So they have a greater income than they had previously, because a lot of companies are paying bonus money to essential workers. And B, people's spending habits have changed dramatically, and they're not spending household finances on ancillary items like, vacations and things of that nature. They're staying close to home. And so 77% of respondents in the last report said that they felt better about their household finances this year than they did last year. And when you look at the data on consumer spending, it actually supports that. So, we are very lucky in the city of Cottage Grove, and I'm sure the staff could point to several other communities who aren't so lucky, in that we continue to grow. And we just saw tonight a couple of examples of that on the council agenda that we just went through. So we continue to grow, we continue to prosper, we continue to see significant improvement in our year-over-year building permits, et cetera. And as Councilmember Dennis mentioned earlier, we all agreed on a budget earlier this year. We voted unanimously in favor of that budget, and that budget provides 83% roughly of our residents with zero growth in their year-over-year city taxes, and many of those folks actually see a reduction. So I think all of those things are wins. And it would be my hope that we would kind of stay the course and stick to the plan and do the things that we've planned on doing with the budget that we've already proposed, and look at what we've just covered through Robin's presentation regarding stimulus income that we received and the ability to use some CARES Act funding for some different things as a bit of a windfall to help feed that growth and maintain the momentum. You know, Ryan mentioned earlier today in one of his presentations about MSA funding, and, you know, we've borrowed against that MSA funding through, I think, 2024, 2025. Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, that's a huge deal for us. And the thing that we don't know is, you know, MSA funding comes from the state. And as Ryan Schrader used to like to say, if the state gets sick, cities catch a cold too. And, you know, we have to hedge against the fact that, you know, some of those funding sources could potentially not come our way. So we need to protect ourselves against an uncertain future relative to some of the things that the state has been providing us consistently. And I would point to things like LGA, although we don't receive much, if any, MSA funding, et cetera, as things that, frankly, I'm concerned the state won't be able to manage very well over the course of the next few years because of what they've had to do and may continue needing to do with unemployment and those sorts of things that they're providing to residents of the state of Minnesota across the entire state. So within 55016, I think we've got it going well. And I would like to stay the course and continue with the plan that we have in place, which I think is a reasonable plan. And I certainly recognize the fact that it would be nice to say, hey, let's go from 399 to 35 or 299. But the reality is, when you look at the dollars and cents that the individual taxpayer would experience in that sort of change, it's pretty negligible. It's pretty small. I think it's a couple, $3. So realistically, I feel like we're better off just sticking with the plan as it stands today.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Olson. Councilmember,
Mayor?
Yep, Councilmember Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Thiede, for bringing that up. I think it is important to consider it. And I think back when we did discuss this, we did say we would keep evaluating as we went along. And my opinion is, as looking at everything, that it would be important to continue with this. I think we haven't seen that drop. And Robin mentioned that in her report. And I think we do need to prepare because things might change. And as some of the other council members have mentioned, some of those funding changes could come about where we won't have those funds, but also preparing for that growth. And I have a lot of concern about if we grow too quickly and not having the funds to be able to keep up with that. And so I'd rather see some of those buckets be filled with some pieces, just so that we can kind of have that kind of for that next piece that we're moving into. So I would be in favor of continuing with the plan that we had put forth and not make that change.
And thank
And
you.
Mayor, could I add one more thing, please?
Yeah, Councilmember Olson.
Thank you. One of the things Robin does as just sort of a normal course of her year-to-year budget process is she looks really closely at our debt and our ability to potentially refinance debt and, you know, save some money with respect to the debt portion of our levy. And I know that we talked earlier this year about the fact that, you know, money is essentially free right now. It's pretty cheap. So I would assume that staff has already been looking into, are there opportunities available to us to, you know, potentially refinance some debt? And then, as was mentioned in one of the earlier slides about the intersection at East Point by Cub there, I mean, that seems to make perfect sense. I mean, the timing couldn't be better in terms of starting that process, utilizing some of the funding options that we have available now, in addition to recognizing that from a borrowing money perspective, I mean, it's basically free. So I just wanted to add that I would encourage staff to pursue that if the rest of the council agrees. I think it's good timing to start that process. And we all know that that has been a source of frustration and annoyance for our residents for several years. And so I think they would also appreciate the fact that, you know, we try to alleviate some of that pain as soon as possible. And I guess I'll turn it back over to staff to see if they think that that's a wise choice, or if they have any commentary on the debt conversation.
I don't know if, Robin, do you want to
Sure.
comment?
Councilmember Olson, members of the council, as you know, we are calling the bonds that we can to reduce our debt levy so that we made room for the pavement management levy we anticipate for 2021's pavement management project. I'm sure you're going to hear about that at a council meeting in December. So we are already going to call some debt to free up some space there. But I would also mention that our closed debt fund has a significant balance in it, and with with amounts that would be assigned to it from the fund balance policy would provide about $2.5 to $3 million worth of basis in order to either refinance debt or to buy down future debt levies for bonds that we might issue to do things like the project that you were referring to, Councilmember Olson.
Okay, thank you, Robin. I think Councilmember Thede, you have something you want to add?
Yes, Councilmember Olson, most of the reports that I've looked at are referencing 2019. Can you send me a link to what report you were referring to when you get a chance, please?
Absolutely. Yep, happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thanks for, by the way, for all the council members, for each of you kind of expressing your thoughts and comments. So where I take it is this. One, we knew going into this, the 2020 budget, that we were probably going to have an issue with the equipment replacement fund, just because we've drawn down on it. And for whatever reasons we want to use, I mean, the fact is every year we as a council push back pretty heavily on our staff. I'm sure they would say about, do we really need that piece of equipment, and so on and so forth. So sometimes we cause those issues on ourselves. So it comes to a point where some of this equipment just can't be pushed off anymore. And it means that when we have these plans in place that we're assuming we're going to, switch out a truck here or there, or whatever, that's going to cause an issue that we're going to have to deal with, or a future council will have to deal with. The other big thing, of course, as we all know, is what really did take a huge chunk out of our equipment replacement fund was that fire truck. We needed it. We had to have it for our citizens and their safety. And the fact of the matter is that was 1.3 million, 2 million, somewhere in there, Robin. So right off the top, we did take a big chunk, obviously, again, knowing we needed it, and took a big chunk out of there. So the reason that we adjusted, if you could just go back to think why we adjusted when we did, to go with the 3.99 budget, it was really to help build the equipment replacement fund, because we are at, I'll be honest with you, critically low amounts. So if you put this other million in there, plus the 363,000, if we follow this current program, we're going to at least get ourselves to a number where we can start working on getting these trucks and some of this equipment replaced. And I do also, and I concur with Councilmember Mills in her comments regarding Councilmember Thede and the look at how do we, is there something we can do for our residents? And I would tell you two things. One is, if our budget this year would be raising taxes on a majority, or even close to a majority of people in the community, I would be right in the ballpark with you. But I don't know if the number exactly is 82 or 83% of the citizens of Cottage Grove are going to see zero tax increase from the city's portion of their budget, or taxes, or less, meaning people are going to actually see reduction with the rate as it sits today. Plus, we are going to have an opportunity to, I think, at least this is how I look at it, lessen the impact for future taxes with the rest of the citizens. Because whether we buy down debt that Robin's talking about, whether we can put more money towards projects that would cost the taxpayers. And I know the one specific one that we referenced is that East Point Douglas in Jamaica. I mean, I'll wait to see all the specifics of that come through, but it is my belief and understanding that that project, though it would be similar to other projects in the community, that you would generally go to the local taxpayer or the local business owners and such, or in the business in that area, and tax them. They're, I think, still paying taxes from the roundabouts that went on down by Jamaica. And so it would be extremely difficult, which I think is really the challenge that we've been facing, to, in essence, double tax them with a process of trying to extend this road. So is that a huge priority for me to get that road fixed up and done? Absolutely. So then I look at the rest of this and go, okay, I can buy down debt. I can, we can refinance. So really, there isn't a lot left in here when you look at it. So if we stay with the $1 million to the equipment plus the 363, the 230 or 250,000 for the comp study, then there's the debt, which I think you said is 508,000, and pavement management, with those 145. The only one that's left is the building replacement fund, which would be the other piece, if you will, that was going to be funded with the extra, the way our policy is broken down. And so then I look at that number and go, okay, what true effect is that going to have on the average taxpayer? And I don't know which, I apologize, which council member brought it up. It would have little to very little or none to the general taxpayer to shift that to them. So I guess what I would ask, maybe just for a quick sec, Robin, if you can, or Jennifer. So when we put money into the building fund, where does that money go? I mean, in other words, what do we use that money for? Just so we have it out there.
We established the municipal building fund initially a long time ago to set aside funds to pay for future facility improvements. You'll recall that when we built City Hall, we had a good chunk of money in that municipal building fund. A good portion of that had come from dedicated levy dollars, as well as the fund balance policy. At this point, you'll recall that the CIP has a couple of projects in the future in it for the Public Works building. Ultimately, a remodel or a potential separate building at the Public Works Department, which was identified in the space needs study. There's also the future acquisition of another site for a Public Works facility. Granted, those items are in the 2022, 23, and 25 budget, but by setting aside money in the municipal building fund, we build up a base that we can then draw off of for future building projects such as Public Works. So it's a savings account essentially. It doesn't seem like there's a lot going in there, but over a period of time, we hope to build that up for future either remodeling or building of the new Public Works facility.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason I wanted you to, I just want to make sure that I was accurate in my assumption that that is, you know, something that we know that one way or the other, whether it's a complete new build or a remodel of the existing facility or buildings or such, that we know there's going to be a need for that. And if we don't put money aside for that, again, whether it's me or one of you guys or somebody else out there, is going to have to pay for that in the future. So if we can in essence buy some of that down now, where we are holding the line in essence on where our taxes are, but still have this money to put in these accounts to lessen the impact of taxpayers in the future, I'm interested in that. And so that was my reason for just bringing this up. The one other thing though you did mention, Robin, I know at one point you did say, and I heard you just say it, we used to levy directly to the building replacement, the building fund. Is that correct?
Correct.
And we haven't done that now for how many years?
Well, quite a while.
Yep. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is every time we have an opportunity to pull back to help our local taxpayers, we've actually did that. But at some point, if we're not careful, and that's why it's always good, I think, to have some of these fund balances in there, is it will lessen the impact on the taxpayer in the future. So that was, so I guess in my long roundabout way of saying that as the mayor, I think the way it's been laid out to us on your proposal, at least in my case, I think is the right way to go. I think we're having a very minimal impact to the average taxpayer in Cottage Grove. Matter of fact, the majority of the taxpayers of Cottage Grove aren't going to see anything on an increase. We're still going to be able to do the equipment, which is going to save us money, I think, into the future as it relates to us having to put additional funds aside, literally through a levy, if that would be the case, if we didn't keep a good fund balance in the equipment replacement. And then these other areas where we're going to have some opportunity to buy down debt and maybe get some additional road projects completed or in queue to be completed. So I also agree that at this point that we should, stay the course, and I would also agree that we should follow the kind of the plan that's been laid out before us. So council members, any other, council member, council member Thiede, go ahead.
So what I'd like, Robin, if you could send me the information associated with that 80% or whatever Councilmember Dennis referred to in terms of going down, because I think the information I have was at the 2.99 and not the 3.99. That percentage of households would go down. So I'd appreciate if you could send me that information that Councilmember Dennis referenced.
Certainly.
And just one last comment in that we're looking at things that we can put transfer fund balance to and so forth, and trying to figure out, well, where we can put this, that, and I guess I still, most of that we can still do, but we can, could still give a little bit of that benefit to the residents. So I still feel pretty strongly about that.
Mayor?
Yeah, is that Councilmember Dennis?
It is.
Yes, go ahead.
Just one last piece, and just so that the public is very clear on the difference of 299 to 399, what we did is we put basically 1% into roadway preservation and roadway management projects. So what we're doing is we're reinvesting that money in the community so that people have good, safe roadways to drive on, and so that we protect the infrastructure and the asset represented therein.
Okay. All right. Any
Mayor, I
other?
have one last thing to add.
Yeah, Councilmember Olson.
Councilmember Thiede had asked for the link to the Federal Reserve report from September 2020 that I was referencing. So what I did is I just emailed that link directly to Jennifer, and that way she can distribute it to the entire council if she chooses to do that. I didn't want to violate open meeting law by, sending an email to everybody, but what I was speaking to earlier is directly from the executive summary of that report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Olson. All right, staff, do you have what you need then at this point?
I believe we do. What you'll see on December 2nd will be the 2021 levy. That's one resolution. And then we do the 2020 revised and 2021 adopted budget in a separate resolution. And the items that we've discussed tonight will be referenced in that resolution for the 2020 revised budget. We appreciate your time tonight and your consideration. And if there are questions in between now and then, be sure that you give Jennifer or me a call, and we'll be happy to talk it over with you. But thank you.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, staff, for working on, making sure that we can manage our expenses the way we do fiscally wise in our community. You've been recognized, we've been recognized as one of the most fiscally sound communities, frankly, in the United States. So I'm pretty proud of that and proud of the staff for making that happen, and frankly, the citizens for their support of that. So, all right. Seeing no other comments on this topic, I have a motion by Councilmember Olson to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dennis. All right. Roll call vote. Let's see if Joe's still there.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Dennis,
Aye.
Councilmember Thiede,
Aye.
Councilmember Olson,
Aye.
Mayor Bailey.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.